Happy Wednesday night and welcome to Deep in the Plus. This is the show where we go into the Disney Plus catalog and we find a show or a movie and we go deep into it. This week we're going into Onward. And if you have not already, please subscribe to WDWNT TV for more great content and give us a thumbs up as it helps people to find us. My very special guest for the evening is Mr. Patrick Hackett. How are you, buddy?
Hey, Rob, put it in O.
Yeah. So here's the thing. You and I did a review of all the Pixar movies during, I think it was the marathon, and people didn't like my choices, and a lot of my choices had to do with how I felt about rewatching a movie. Usually it has to do with, like, what's my enjoyment going to be about it, not is it a quality movie, not necessarily is it like, is it the acting or the cinematography? It's, am I going to watch it again? And a lot of these Pixar movies, the kids at Pixar, they love to give you a sad story. And they have not disappointed with Onward. I will tell you that. There's a lot to talk about here and unpack. So I don't want to say where our rankings came in for Onward specifically, but I do have that in my pocket for the end.
All right.
So we will talk about that because I do want to get like your overall impression of this, because when I said Onward is one of the movies I want to review, it's a 4-year anniversary. It came out in March of 2020. Not a good time for a movie to come out. Yeah, so it's 4 years old, and I said, "Hey, who wants to talk about this?" And you said, "Me." You have a connection to this? Is there something special about Onward to you?
There is something special about Onward to me. Before the pandemic, I started playing Dungeons and Dragons to stay connected with my friends. I went to school in Philadelphia. If you can't see the LaSalle Explorers banner. So I have friends, in Philly and Jersey, and I have a lot of close friends here that I don't get to see all that often. And Dungeons and Dragons became a huge part of hanging out with these people and getting a reason to jump on a Zoom and play a game. And during the pandemic, that became even more important, for sanity. And also, my father passed away, and it's a tough thing. And this movie spoke to me at that time. You are muted.
My father passed away as well, and again, that is one of the reasons that this is, to me, a sad movie, because of the way that it ends for Ian, and we'll talk about that. But I do get what you're saying about it, and it means something to you. My wife's father passed away just a year ago, and so when I was watching this, she was like, "I cannot watch that with you," and I was like, totally get that. So I was, sitting by myself watching it with subtitles on to make sure that she didn't hear it. So yeah, I mean, it's a very emotional movie for something that is supposed to be a family movie. And Pixar's famous again for that. Up is one that I famously have a problem with because of how sad it is. And this is, again, no exception. So
I think when we talk about stuff like this and we do rankings because it's fun and it draws attention to stuff, to me, there is a huge difference between best and favorite. Sometimes my favorite thing will be what I think is the best. And sometimes my favorite won't be what I think is the best. Like, my favorite Indiana Jones is Last Crusade. I don't know if it's the best one, but it's definitely my favorite.
Yeah.
My favorite Star Wars is Rogue One, and it's definitely not the best one.
I agree. And the other thing we said during our Pixar ranking was that, this is like ranking your favorite children. I mean, it's one of those things where there's not really exactly. There's not really too many that are tanked awful, and those two we did put last, so I get that. But it's hard to really get into the old Pixar and not just like them all and try to figure out, well, is it Monsters Inc. I like better than Toy Story or Toy Story 2? So there's a lot of good Pixar movies. Before the end of this, we're gonna say if we think this is a good one or not. But let me give the summary. It says, teenage elf brothers Ian and Barley embark on a magical quest to spend one more day with their late father. Already, dude, seriously, fun for the whole family. Like, bring the kids. Daddy, are you gonna die?
Say something about that? What's awesome is they're so bad at promoting films. Now, again, pandemic, but like One More Day, this came out 4 years ago. What would have been a great day to release this film on?
Leap Day.
Leap Day.
Wow. But there was Leap Day that year, and they released it on March 6th. Yeah. So it says, like any good adventure, the journey is filled with cryptic maps, impossible obstacles, and unimaginable discoveries. But when Dear Mom finds out the sons are missing, she teams up with a legendary manticore to bring her beloved boys back home. Interesting synopsis. But that's basically the gist. It's a fantasy journey movie. When they announced this the first time, it was sort of a blue sky announcement that they made at D23 in 2017. And when they talked about it, they were talking about a couple different movies, and they called this one like the one with the magical creatures. And they talked specifically about how in this magical world there were going to be the unicorns were going to be the raccoons of this land. And so they had kind of some of it fleshed out. We didn't know the story at the time, but we knew they were going to put us in sort of this Tolkien-esque world where unicorns and pixies and dragons existed. But it's funny the way that this one starts out with, there's a narration about there used to be magic, and then somebody figured out technology is easier, so they just stopped practicing magic and magic went away.
Okay. Do you think this is a heavy-handed way of making a point about filmmaking?
Filmmaking? I mean, I can see it now that you brought it up.
Yeah,
okay.
That's how this felt to me. This felt like the directors were saying that there used to be a real artistic quality to filmmaking, that there used to be an authorship when you make a movie, and that went away because everything is connected. It's a cinematic universe. It's an existing property. It's not something standing on its own like this is. So I felt like, knowing the Walt Disney Company like I do, is that they're not talking about progress here, because that wouldn't be like the Walt Disney Company. But I felt like they were saying about the film industry here that things used to have a magic to them and they don't anymore.
Interesting. I didn't get that from this, so maybe you were just in deep thought here. I was
really in deep thought today while watching it. Actually, I watched it today, so I am
okay. You're ready to go. In D23 2019, they brought out Chris Pratt and Tom Holland on stage to introduce them as Ian and Barley and talk about them being in this movie. And quite honestly, at that time, there could not have been two bigger stars to be able to put into this. And I was blown away. I'm like, this is exciting. It's Star-Lord and Spider-Man. That was at the end of the Sony run. And there was talk of that Tom Holland was going back to Sony. And so it was a very tearful appearance for him, because at that time his fate in the MCU was still uncertain, and so he sort of said a tearful goodbye to the audience as he left the stage, but for Spider-Man. So
this was a terrible idea, not the D23, but having them in this movie. It is incredibly distracting.
Okay. Well, I will say that Tom Holland is Ian is Tom Holland. It's not any different from Peter Parker.
No, it's it's Peter Parker. It's not Tom Holland. Tom Holland's British.
British,
Let's not forget that Peter Parker's voice is not his.
You're right.
Chris Pratt doesn't do voices. He stopped. He's just Chris Pratt.
He's Chris Pratt, whether he's Mario or Barley, it doesn't matter.
I hated how much I didn't like. I wanted to hate Mario, and it's good. It's really good.
So this happened again. This released on March 6th, and to your point, was a bad idea not to release it on Leap Day. It opened up on March 6th of 2020, and then March 20th that released on digital at night, because people were like, okay, we're shutting down the world. There's a place where we can go and put this out there. So it had 2 to 3 weeks in the theater, and then it became available for Disney Plus subscribers on April 3rd of 2020. Probably the fastest turnaround anything has ever happened to go straight from theater to Disney Plus. And again, because by that point they had no idea how long the pandemic would last, how long it would be before they could get people back into theaters. And so it was on our screens in April. We here at WDWNT were doing WDWNT Live at the time. And so we did a watch along with this when it hit. It was me and Tom and Ben and Jill and Eric Wolf who sat and watched this. So if you remember that, that was not a Deep in the Plus. We were not there at the time to do this because
there was some confusion in the group chat.
Yeah, exactly. There was some confusion. Desi was like, "Didn't we already do that?" I was like, "Okay, no." So we did it during WDWNT Live. Now this movie was the 22nd of the 27 current Pixar films. And the other thing that's interesting to me about this one is it followed a ton of sequels. It came out after it was Finding Dory, then Cars
Yep.
3, then
Mm-hmm.
Coco, then Incredibles 2, and Toy Story 4, and then this. So there were 4 out of 5 right before this were all like sequels that had kind of been like
To
staples in
my
the
earlier
Pixar.
point,
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. Well, you can keep ringing that bell if you'd like.
I'm gonna.
Keep beating that drum, my friend.
No problem.
Yeah. So it was a COVID movie, but not. Because then after this, of course, they released Soul, Luca, and Turning Red directly to the
That
Disney
all just
Plus.
got their theatrical release, but they didn't. Turning Red wasn't there long. I really wanted to see it, and I did not get a chance to.
I'm sorry, buddy. Well,
Me
you
too.
know what? You'll get it next time around when it comes back out of the vault. Um, so again, Tom Holland plays Ian Lightfoot. Chris Pratt plays Barley Lightfoot. Julia Louis-Dreyfus as Laurel. Now, Julia Louis-Dreyfus to me is a lot the same as Chris Pratt. She's not doing a voice; she's just her.
I felt like she was doing a little bit of a voice. There's a softening of her usual tone. But yeah, and it's also distracting. That's actually my biggest takeaway of this is that the stars kind of distract from the film. I think this would have been better done with lesser known actors or people who are primarily voice actors.
Yeah. Okay. There were a couple of guest stars in this one. It was Tracy Ullman
Yeah.
as the Goblin in the pawn shop.
Very, very well done too. Great voice there.
Wilmer Valderrama as
College
Ian's
friend.
dad's college friend in
Yeah.
a like in a fast food
Like a
joint.
McDonald's. Yeah.
That was such a weird pull for that to be like a voice he would do. And
Yeah.
then John Ratzenberger was Fenwick, a Cyclops construction worker, and this was the last time that he was the crown
Well,
jewel.
I was gonna ask that. Okay,
Yes.
the former good luck charm.
Yep. It has been Alan Tudyk for all of the Walt Disney animation, and it was John Ratzenberger for every movie, starting with Toy Story all the way through this one, and then no more. So maybe that's why the magic is gone, is because he hasn't been in a bunch of these movies.
He makes a cameo in Soul, right? There's a brief like he's a voice in the subway or something.
Yeah. So the thing you don't know when this movie first starts, because again, in the marketing, I don't think they originally told you this, is that the basic story, as I read before, is that these two boys are they're on a quest to have one last day with their dad who has departed. Now, it's not he's dying and they need to have one last day with him. He's been gone and they're going to resurrect him in some. I mean, it's dark if you think about it.
It's
like
dark.
they're doing some dark magic to bring their father back.
Oh,
who's
slow
been
down.
dead.
That's not dark magic.
You're going to the pet cemetery and they're
No.
I don't know. I feel like it's a little dark.
It's just revivify, you know? They gotta have to
Okay.
get a diamond for it and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, again, like I said, I lost my dad, and you know, it's very Cats in the Cradle. It's, you know, watching it again as an adult. Did you watch this with your daughter? Does she?
No, so she was 6 months old.
Okay,
So
but you didn't watch it with her this time either, and you haven't watched it since.
No, she was not at home at the time I watched it.
Gotcha. The movie opens with the narration talking, as we said before, about the magic in the land, and it looked like very, you know, Tolkien-esque land with the shires and the huts and the, you know, the magic spells and the staffs and you shall not pass and all that stuff. And so then, you know, they kind of fast forward into a modern world in their world where everything's still the same. They're like the houses still look like Smurf huts and they still have all that stuff. But Pixar does such a good job of this, whether it's Inside Out or whether it's Monsters University or any of these, of taking whatever that reality is for whoever whoever we're talking about, and taking the things in real life and making them fit into this world.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, yeah.
Really good at world building, and they do a great job here as well.
When we meet Ian, it's his birthday. He comes downstairs. We have this big reveal that his dad, not his dad, his stepdad is a centaur, where it's like you see him as like a policeman and he's kind of coming down, and then the reveal of like his horse's butt out the outside of it. That's a thing that happens. His brother Barley is playing this game called Quests of Yore, which is totally Dungeons and Dragons. And that's what you were talking about earlier.
Yeah. It is 100% Dungeons and Dragons, and it's really great.
But I don't remember when I was a little kid, and I've not really ever played Dungeons and Dragons, so don't at me. But it's so funny to me that, like, even in this world where everything is mystical, there are still Dungeons and Dragons nerds. So, but in those days, it was the hardcover book and the 12-sided die, and that was it. I mean, now there's figures and things.
I got the hardcover book right over here.
But there are figures and things now, right?
I mean, I think there was figures and things then. It was like mostly done on graph paper. I think figures came in later. I mean, for me, it's all done online. I'm not going to shout out the company I use because their user interface is garbage. But, there's a lot of places that you can do it online, and there's maps and you get a little token. It's really great for community building and for having an excuse to get together.
Okay. I mean, I'm not shaming it. We did the closest I've ever done was when we had the RPG on WDWNT, and we did it for overnights on the marathon show. And that was the first time I'd ever done anything like it. And it was kind of fun. It's all improv-y. Of course, you see it playing out in different media. But
here's my question when we're talking about Dungeons and Dragons. You need a significant amount of people to play, and it does not seem like Barley has
friends.
Anybody. Yeah. Anybody.
And he's trying to get the family in.
Yeah.
Right? He's trying to get Ian to play. He's trying to get Mom to play. He's trying to get Bronco to play. He's trying to get everybody engaged in. And he's over the top about this. He is named his van Guinevere. He's got that spray painted side to it. It's, he's got the characters, and he talks in the same way, and he's obsessed with all of this stuff. By the way, there was a lot of controversy around this movie too, for a movie that didn't hit hugely at the box office and got roped into the COVID situation. But the van, do you remember that there was an issue with the van? So the van, no. Okay, so what happened was there was a lawsuit about the van, that the van.
Yes.
One of the animators drew the van, and the guy and I guess he drew it from, a guy's van he had seen, and the guy sued Disney for it. And I think to the point where they were like maybe not going to release the movie, and then I think they paid him off. But yeah. And then there was like, it wasn't shown in some countries because there was there's some innuendo about the police. Yeah. And then it lost the Oscar to Soul,
which I don't think it should have. I still don't think it should have upon rewatch. This is a deeper movie than Soul. It is not prettier by any stretch of the imagination. This actually might be one of the ugliest Pixar films we have.
Interesting.
It's not. I mean, especially I just watched Elemental a couple weeks ago, and Elemental is gorgeous. But this is definitely a better movie than Soul. I really think it should have won the Oscar. I actually looked back on this day on Facebook, and I was complaining about it then too.
You were complaining about the fact that it wasn't
Onward
beautiful?
losing to Soul. No, Onward losing to Soul. I don't think Soul should have got it. I think Soul is one of the most mediocre Pixar films that's ever been put out.
Interesting. Okay. Well, again, when it opens up, this movie opens up with like a breathtaking sky view of the magical lands, and you don't think this is what is about this? Don't you like?
So I think like a lot of Pixar films are really drenched in bright colors, and that works for me. I think this one's a little more muted. The tones are a little bit darker, and there might be detail in there, but I just think it feels very brown to me. I feel like there's a lot of brown, and I'd much rather get you see, like, it's,
I don't know, like that chalice looked pretty tight.
Yeah, I'm not saying like I mean, Pixar movies are generally tremendous works of art, and this is like my least favorite Rembrandt,
Your least favorite Rembrandt. Got it. Yeah, I do. Again, I think that the world building of this was so well done with, like, like I said, like the mushroom huts and the unicorns as like these like trash raccoons digging in the trash. These things that we revere so much as magical creatures, and they're just like going through the garbage.
I thought that was a nice touch. I liked it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was. I think there was a lot of creativity that went into
Yes.
the world building and into the background of it. It's the story that haunts me about for let's just talk about this for a second, because Chris Pratt is famous for being Star-Lord. And in Infinity War, he screws everything up, which, again, you have to. We're making 2 movies. You can't solve the Thanos problem right here. Somebody has to be this. But having that moment where they're about to get the glove off, and then he decides to just go in a different direction about Gamora. Like, can you wait till we get the glove off to then, like, have this argument with him? But instead, he ruins it, and then everybody gets snapped. So we hate Star-Lord. I do. I don't know. It's one of those things.
Star-Lord hates himself, clearly.
Yeah.
Star-Lord wears that burden quite heavily.
Barley is that all the way through this movie.
Well, see, Barley takes it in a different direction than Star-Lord. If you look at Star-Lord in Guardians, 4? Is it 3 or 4?
3.
3.
Yeah.
He's, curling up into a bottle. He's a shell of himself. And Barley has disassociated. Barley has created a world that he'd much rather live in than the real world. And we go back and we, when we get to the moment in this film, it's because he had a chance to say goodbye and he was too scared. And so now he lives his life without fear, but he also lives his life in a fantasy.
But Star-Lord also had that same problem where he did not go say goodbye to his mother. He ran away.
Oh, God. I forgot about that. Yeah, this was poor casting. This is stunt casting. I think they didn't have a good enough film, and they pulled 2 people that they had contact with and just went for it.
Interesting.
I can think of so many people that this would have worked better with.
We were talking about the animation a little bit, and like I said, the world building of the animation I think is amazing, but the characters, Blazy, which is a fun little character. It's like a dog, but he's a dragon. It's a fun little character. But I have this screenshot here of Blazy, and it literally to me looks like you've placed a 3D model into your environment.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it looks like I laid this down in a color forms. If you remember color forms. Yeah.
Come on, I'm not that much younger than you, Rob. I remember
color
forms.
All right, I'm just saying.
You're old enough to be like my uncle or brother, not my dad. Come on.
Wow. I didn't know this episode was going to take this turn.
This had to be deep. This episode is a therapist's dream or nightmare. I'm not sure if a therapist prefers something like this or doesn't.
Well, and let's take out the dad part for a second. Clearly, Ian doesn't like who he is as a person either, because it's his 16th birthday, and how he decides to celebrate it is to make a list of how he's going to be a new him.
Yeah.
And he, of course, he makes this list of 4 things, and then he goes through and he's like, this is how my day is going to be. And then he tries all 4. And then, be like dad wasn't really one that he tried, but he tried these other 3 things to speak up for himself, to learn how to drive, and to invite people to his birthday party. And he whiffs all 3. And it's almost too formulaic. Like they make that list, and then the next scenes are him screwing those up. But again, like psychologically, go ahead.
It's a quest for identity for both of them. They don't really know who they are or where they fit into this world, and they have an awesome mom who's doing her best to try and guide them through this. But they're both lost in their own way, and Ian weighs a lot on his identity being somebody without a dad, and also somebody who was raised by a weird older brother. I don't think he realized
somebody that I used to know.
Thanks, Gauthier.
Look, you got it. Yeah, I get that. Again, psychological problem. There's the whole theory that every Disney character, every Winnie the Pooh character is some kind of a described mental illness. This is like, there are so many layers of of problems, not just with, I mean, you've got a departed father, so forget the freaky thing where we're trying to bring him back to life, but you've got a departed father. There's a new person in mom's life. He's trying to be like kind of one with the boys, but Barley's kind of like lashing out and doing all these kooky things, and he can't really reach Ian, and then you've got the whole thing about Ian and wanting to be a new person, living up to dad in the fantasy world, like you were talking about. And then even when we get to the manticore, even the manticore is like having an identity crisis.
The manticore's identity crisis and the manticore's character development is my favorite part of this movie by far. By far, it's the most fun. I'd watch a buddy cop sequel with Manticore and the mom.
Well, we'll just call it that: Manticore and the mom.
Manticore and the mom.
Yeah, Octavia Spencer plays Corey is the character's name, or the Manticore. I think it's Corey for short. I don't think that's her name.
Yeah, it's just Corey.
Not only again do we have like references to Dungeons and Dragons, but we've got references to Tolkien and The Hobbit with Burger Shire now serving second breakfast. What? Come on, man. Like, these guys had a ton of fun making this movie with all the inside nods to things like that. I don't know. It's fun.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun. In the darkness, we're having a good time.
Yep. Yeah. So again, by the way, Ian's penmanship, top notch. Like my handwriting is not this clean, and like the nice little boxes and things that he's putting on there. I mean, and then knowing when to use the upper lower case, knowing when to use sentence case. Brava, like very well done. So then anyway, he makes this whole list. He heads off to school, and then immediately one by one he messes it up. He doesn't speak up for himself, and then he volunteers to drive, but he screws that up, and then he doesn't. And then he screws it up again where he tries to invite his friends to his birthday party. And then like that was a painful scene, like him writing on his hand and then getting it on here. And
yeah, it was painful. And coming home after that was painful too. Yeah.
Yes, true. But, but again, there's a lot of issues happening here, and almost to the point where sometimes I cringe a little too much.
Yeah, it's a little cringy.
And you gotta pause and kind of take a deep breath. I love when they go to town on background
yes,
like things like this halt sign. It doesn't say stop, it says halt. And then they've got the natural food store and the locksmith and a psychic and Trollex Financial Services. So good. Just all these little nods, and it's really neat. And I guess those are the cars you would drive in that world. And you've got gnomes are part of this world. And I think the gnomes are overlooked too much. Sorry, just putting that out there. So yeah, I mean, it's the background. The is beautiful. I don't know. There's just something that doesn't click sometimes. And again, maybe it's just I'm waiting for that hammer to fall.
No, I think I think you're right. I think there's stuff that just doesn't click with this. Ostensibly, it's a quest movie. It's a road trip movie. We have tons of movies like this. It's two guys who are going to get to know each other, who have issues with each other. They're going to grow, and they're going to grow apart. And there's just some times that it feels like, even in a created story, that some of the conflict is too created. It doesn't feel natural. It feels like it's over the top. Like Barley feels like a caricature. He doesn't feel like a character. He feels like when Jack Black is doing an over the top character, which honestly Jack Black would have been amazing in this role.
You're like, now that I say it, Jack Black would have been better.
Now that I say it. Well, my first thought, I was like, who would really, really crush this would be Key and Peele. I thought Key and Peele as the brothers would be really great, because I was trying to recast this because it was distracting. I'm like, if I blink for a second, what are Star-Lord and Spider-Man doing?
Yeah, that's fair. I get that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. But it's a Ben Stiller movie is what it is. How many Ben Stiller movies are him, whether it's Something About Mary or Meet the Fockers, where he's just one thing after another, cringy bad
Yeah,
moment,
yeah.
screwing up, bad timing, dropping something, trying to fix it, getting worse all the time. And that's kind of how that goes for both of them, because, Ian
Yep.
is embarrassed by Barley because Barley is, living out loud, and he's got this very fantasy role about him. And then at the same time, Ian's not comfortable with himself, and he feels like he's a failure. So he feels like he's a different kind of failure, I think, in it. So
Yeah.
there's this next moment that's very weird and sweet where he goes and he puts this cassette in of his dad's voice, and he's like interacting with his dad's voice. That is, again, very dark.
And it feels like it definitely wasn't the first time he's done that. It feels like that's something he does pretty frequently. It felt like he's, had this time. I can't imagine, this is a kid who is just trying to figure it out. You remember how awkward your teenage years are, and
No, not at all.
No, you were suave. You're walking in there, Troy Bolton.
Yeah. All in this together.
Yeah, man, it's tough. It's hard to watch, especially, we're talking about ourselves, and the stuff in here is one of the things I have. I still have a voicemail on my phone from my dad.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what are you going to do in these situations? And coping mechanisms just aren't there. It's different coping mechanisms for both of the main characters, and neither of them seem to be quite healthy.
Yeah. No, the voicemail thing I totally get, dude. I believe I probably have one too. So the mom sees how sad Ian is. He's come home. He screwed up everything on his new me list, and she's like, "Hey, your dad left you a present," which, again, just ripping that Band-Aid off, that seems a little bit like, what? And so she, and at first I thought, this isn't fair. This is for Ian. What about Barley? But it's to Ian and Barley, but not to be given to Ian until his 16th birthday, I guess. So here we are.
16. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he's reading this letter from his dad that he would love to see them one more day, and he's invented this spell. It's the cruelest spell ever. It's 24 hours with your dad, and it starts by making him from the ground up. Not from the, top down, but from the ground. I don't know how you do that floating head or whatever, but it's all magic. It just seems a little weird, doesn't it? And it's
fine. Yeah.
And it's called the visitation spell. So
yeah.
This is, again,
I mean, it's a combination of Dungeons and Dragons spells, Revivify and Talk with Dead. So, it's in the lore.
So they try, I guess, Barley, who is now this expert on all things mystical because of the game that he plays, has tried to
Based
use
in reality, Rob.
Right, of course it is. I'm so sorry. So he tries to conjure his dad through this spell. It's not working. And then after he leaves, Ian starts to do it, and they realize that Ian has the magic in him to do this.
He's got the magic in him.
Yeah, exactly. The magic is calling, is actually what's happening. He gets the spell going, and then Barley comes in and screws it up because he keeps doing that. And again, I get angry at Barley. Sorry, I do, because he's screwing things up.
100%. The lack of self-awareness on Barley is incredibly frustrating.
I don't like this.
Thanks, Reeves.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is, again, incredibly frustrating. And then this mean reveal where the magic has happened, the dad's climbing out of the closet, it's like, oh, there's his feet, here he comes, it's Dad, hello, and boom. Which, by the way, I feel
was really funny.
I feel like there was more of him in the spell, and then all of a sudden he's just down to his belt. So why did that happen?
Isn't that closer to the, I don't know. I'm not worried about that. I know you're a big stickler for the rules of the world. If he got to his belly button, I need belly button.
I mean, yes.
Rob, it's funny. It's a funny bit.
Because look, here he is, and here's his shirt.
Yep. All right. There you go.
Sorry.
Man,
Sorry.
You would be horrible to play D&D with. You'd be the rules lawyer.
Excuse me, sir. You said in the first chapter
it has a range of 30 feet, and he is 35 feet away.
Hello. I do like that they did the setup with the tapping on the foot. That was a thing that Barley
That
did
was
with his dad when
super
he's
cute.
little,
That
and
choked
then
me
it
up.
comes back instantly to be like, oh, yeah, it's definitely that definitely pulls at the
And then when
heartstrings.
he starts doing it, when Barley isn't there, and Ian's like, "No, he's not here," that
Yeah.
was tough. Yeah.
Well, that's the whole thing too. Is like because it started at the bottom. Now we're here. You're welcome. You're welcome.
No.
Yeah. No. It's like
Speaking of cringe.
Oh, so now he can't hear or see them. So that's
Yeah.
again very heartbreaking. He was like it's his dad's one day to come back, and and he can't. Like, I don't know. It's really weird. And what does this say about the afterlife, by the way? Because
I don't know, man. I think like, we're getting really deep in this, but I think you're going too far. I think you've
like,
gone too deep into the plus.
but
You've gone
but
into the
but
abyss
no
of the
no.
plus.
Stay with me. So
I don't want
when
to.
they go into this, and like if the dad returns, and we don't really know
Yeah.
this, but if the dad returns, is it like he was just here yesterday when he passed away, or has he been somewhere else and he has seen all these things happen? Because he says at the end that he and again jumping ahead, but he says at the end that he is proud of the man that Ian has become, and he didn't really know Ian because he passed away
Well, I
when
think
Ian
the
was a baby.
reason that we don't get ears, eyes, more than a few minutes is so we don't have to answer that question, Rob. We don't have to
I
ask,
want to
well,
answer
where have
that
you been?
question. I want to
I
answer
know
that
you
question.
do, but sometimes questions don't need to be answered. And I think that's one that doesn't. I think it's a magical world and we don't really learn about their afterlife. Maybe he's watching over them this whole time. He's watching, always watching.
Thanks, Roz. Okay.
No problem.
So he's just lower half, and then they make this fake top half. What? It's very Invisible Man, by the way.
It is very Invisible Man
with the gauze and the glasses,
yeah.
right?
Well,
so it's a road trip movie, and they keep going,
yep.
and they're driving, and they go to see the manticore, and they're going to get this map so that they could go get the Phoenix Stone, which is going to allow them to complete the Phoenix Gem, which is going to allow them to complete
the MacGuffin.
Complete this, this transformation visitation spell.
All right, so here's my problem. You ready?
Oh, please because lay it on me.
As somebody who plays these games, if they get a new stone, they should get a new 24 hours.
Yes. Oh my gosh,
you should not have to waste 2 stones on a half day.
The same. Yes. Yeah. Agree. 1,000% agree. Thank you for saying that, because that's in my notes at the end. Is that if they got another one, it shouldn't just finish the spell they
get
are
another
on.
24 hours.
Right. Because
it's so hard to get.
It's consumable. It's like it's So it should, and they were both the same, so they should have the same amount of magic to them, and they should have gotten a second day. That did bother me the first time I saw it, and it bothered me again this time.
It did not bother me the first time. I think I was in a different headspace the first time I saw this, and so it's different now. But that really bothered me.
Yeah. Okay, so they go to see the manticore, and she's not what they expected, because she's basically working at a Chuck E. Cheese, and what does she become? And everything again in Ian and Barley's world is real, so it's real that the map that they used for coloring is like the map to find the actual Phoenix Gem. So I do like this. I do like that as the movie goes on, Ian is becoming a sorcerer. He's becoming more comfortable with it, to the point where he does it without thinking.
Rob, he's a wizard. He's not a sorcerer. It's different. Different classes. He's
a mage. Because that's what Barley keeps calling him.
All right,
keeps calling him a mage. No. Don't question me on that one, because I know that's what he called him. So anyway, they go through and they get out of there, and they go on the road, and they've decided that they need to head to this place called Raven's Point, because Barley has solved the map or whatever. So they go, they're on their trail to Raven's Point. But again, here we are with Barley. Again, he's like, we got to take this crazy route. And he's like, no, just take the expressway. The path of peril or the expressway.
Do you want to get into the philosophical, it's the road less traveled argument? You know?
Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I had not traveled both. Is that where you want to go with
Yeah.
this? Okay, go.
100%. 100%. This movie, at the same time as being very superfluous and kind of like just a stupid movie, I think has some really hidden intelligence in it. And I don't know if it's making those points intentionally or if I am just picking up on things that are not there. But to me, Barley's life is about living that, like you were saying, living out loud. It's about living that road less traveled. It's being true to yourself. And Ian is straight and narrow, traveling the road that's well worn, going down the path that everyone else has done, because he's not trying to be Ian. He's trying to be like Dad.
Yeah. Or like Mike. If I could be like Mike. Here's the next thing that goes wrong is then he runs out of gas. Yeah. And then he's like, well, it says it's full. He's like, no, that's broken.
I like
it's
that
just,
too.
Yeah. Oh, Lord. And again, I just want to beat Barley to a pulp because it's just one thing after the next. And even if they're going to finish their quest, it's still, he is the thing slowing them down along the way. It's not an evil villain. There's not one. Really?
Wow.
Right? There's not an evil villain.
I don't think I noticed that.
Barley.
Yeah, there's no antagonist.
Yeah. If I may draw from a page out of Herbie,
you're not going to get an argument from me.
Right. In the Love Bug, there's usually somebody trying to keep Herbie from winning the race in some way, shape, or form by, putting sugar in the gas tank or by slicking the road or whatever to keep him from getting to the end. And in this one, it's Barley. Barley's the bad guy. Like, I thought about that with Encanto, too.
Wow.
It's like Abuela seems to be kind of the bad, like the villain, like if we had to pick
Abuela,
one. But
Abuela is 100% the villain.
Right.
Yeah.
So Barley...
That is text, not subtext.
Okay. So Barley is, again, the one who continues to be a problem here, and it's just super frustrating. I would like to, again, though, as far as attention to detail goes, once again go into, like, the magic cards, the D&D of this world, the quest for yore, the books, the cards, all of the things they do. Like, check out this still of him pointing to when he wants him to use this spell to magnify. There's like the points are in the book, and there's a page number, and there's it's so well themed that it just makes me look at it and go, they took a lot of care, and maybe these were a bunch of Dungeons and Dragons dorks.
Rob,
I'm sorry,
true.
Players. What did I say?
It's how things look in the book. That's how things look in the player's handbook. Those are the way that it works.
You just wish you played Quest for Yore. So
I don't. It doesn't seem good. It doesn't seem to have a considerable set of rules that we can play by in this world.
Yep. Let me draw your attention again to another still of animation, and this looks like you set a Barley action figure down.
Yeah. This is what I'm saying though. Like, this isn't it doesn't feel as polished as a lot of Pixar movies.
Do you think we're going to get a lot of hate from really people that are like, we love this movie? I don't think
so. I think that it's going to end up that we like this movie with qualifications.
Okay.
And I think that this is a generally disliked film.
Okay. All right. Well, let me stop and say thank you for everyone who's watching. We appreciate you. If you have not already, give us a thumbs up as it helps people to find us. And Patrick, I want to hit you with a couple trivia questions. I know. I could tell. They're not going to be hard, I don't believe.
They're going to be about the spells, the verbal components of the spells that are going to be angry.
No, they're not. They're not. In the beginning of the movie, Ian puts on a sweatshirt that was his dad's. From what college?
The mascot is Griffin, but I don't feel like I got a good look at it. Is it like Gygax University? Is it shouting out Gary Gygax? No.
Gary Gygax? No, it is not.
He's the creator of Dungeons and Dragons, Rob.
Oh, my bad. It is Willowdale College.
Yeah, no.
So Willow.
I remember the Griffins, and I remember it was yellow.
Yeah. And so it has Lightfoot written on there as if like his dad
Yeah.
wrote his own name on his thing, because this
Maybe
is
his
his
dad was
dad's.
like it looks like a cross country hoodie. Maybe his dad was a cross country athlete. Wow, easy for me to say.
Yeah, not really.
No.
So in this, Ian is celebrating today, the day
Mm-hmm.
we start the story. He is celebrating his 16th birthday. What is the date of his birthday?
Are you kidding me?
It's on the
They
calendar.
March 16th.
I don't know the month. I said the
Oh,
date, like the day.
16th.
That is very close. And I think you only said
I know.
16th because it was his 16th birthday. That's what I think.
No, I went with 316 Stone Cold Steve Austin. I have multitudes, Rob.
You're, yeah, deep in the psyche of Patrick Hackett.
That's what this episode really is.
Yeah.
All right, so what is it?
It is the 18th. So it's his 16th birthday.
Okay. Yeah,
that is on the 18th. Yeah.
You're right.
I was actually
16th. Yeah.
I was actually looking at it, trying to figure out if in this world they even made up, like, maybe they're 32 days in a month, or so this is a month that has 30 days in it. So it could have been April 30th, because this movie came out March 6th. Could have been, or on the 30 days, but it could have been the 18th. So anyway, I just a thing that they focus on, and I thought maybe you might have picked up on it, because a lot of times you will go for numbers when I don't.
I could see it in my mind's eye, but you're right. I saw the 16. I saw that it was 2 weeks into the year roughly, or into the month roughly. So I'm okay that I came that close.
No, that's a good call. That's a good call.
Yeah.
So as Barley is sharing his world of his game with everyone around him, he shares with Bronco that in the olden days, centaurs could run how fast?
30 miles per hour.
70 miles an hour. But again,
that's real fast.
It was real fast, because at the very end he
Ah,
throws off
God,
his hat.
that was one of I had a real solid belly laugh at that.
With the long Fabio hair.
It was great, and the very silly neigh. It was good.
When the manticore is giving her police statement, they ask her name. She says last name and first name. What is her first name? It's not Corey, because that's short for manticore. But what? It is the. Yeah. Last name Manticore, first name the. What is the police motto in this realm?
What? Come on. Oh God. To halt and sever. I don't know.
To halt and sever.
I don't know. I was just going with words.
Well, I will tell you that I kind of screwed it up, because hang on a second. I want to be super crystal clear on this. It's wait a minute. Don't move. Hold on. So there's several times we see it in this movie.
Yeah,
but
I know.
But the first time that it popped out at me was when we were the Manticore's tavern has caught fire, and the mom has shown up, and she's arguing with the police officer. And so I'm waiting again for a clear shot of it before I do it. But it is, let's see if we can see it here. It is serving the realm.
Oh, okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's why I said.
Yeah, nope. It's there for a significant period of time.
And when the police officers pull Barley and Ian over later, it's the same thing. So we get to see it again, and there's maybe even one or two other times that
with
we
the
see
very
it, so.
talented Ali Wong doing a small bit as a police officer.
Again, weird, right? Like the small bits that people played in this one, like Tracy Ullman.
She wasn't as huge as she goes on to be at that point in time. Like she was a successful stand-up, but I mean she's bordering superstardom right now.
Here's an inside joke that I liked a lot was on this bridge, as you can see the trucks driving by, Valkyrie Prime on that big pickup truck. The 18-wheeler. Valkyrie Prime. Yeah. I don't know why I thought that was funny. Clearly you don't.
It's a good wordplay. I like it.
So on
Once
the
again, look
bumper,
how dark that is. So dark. It's
yes.
such a dark film.
Do you think that's because it's easier to animate if we can hide the flaws?
Maybe.
Okay.
But this wasn't like rushed to production or anything. This has a good gestation period. It's just
Yeah.
I don't know.
They have to lose. We're almost done. I swear. I promise. They have to lose the Guinevere, which is, of course, semi upsetting for Barley, but he seems to get over it pretty quickly. But they have Guinevere 2, and in the end we get to see Guinevere 2, and on Guinevere 2 there's a bumper sticker. Do you know what the bumper sticker says? I expect you not to know this. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry to ask you these things.
2. It was Guinevere 2, and I remember that the side, I think it had them riding Guinevere instead of just the Pegasus up there. I can see it, and I can't recall what it says.
The bumper sticker, it says Quest Life. Because like Quest for Europe.
Oh, look at that Hydra bumper sticker. That's really cool.
And then look on the left, you can see Serving the Realm on the police vehicle. Just putting that out there. All right, man. I'll cut you loose on that one. The other one I was going to do was when he was crossing the road at the end of the movie, there's a bus that almost hits him, and I was going to ask you what the number was on that bus. I'm not going to ask you that. It's fine.
Huh.
It was 3. It doesn't matter.
I was going to say 113, but I know they just use that verbally in the police code.
Yeah. So, again, thank you for playing. I appreciate you putting up with me on that one. But as I'm watching, these are just the things that pop out to me. I could ask you, actual trivia, but I don't.
I watch this with a real critical eye, and, you and those who've watched the show know that when I am really watching something critically that I don't know it that well, this is only the second time I've seen this movie. I am really paying attention, and some of the details slip past me in those. It's not like I'm stuck in a bad movie and I am scouring it for trivia because I need something to distract me. I was very invested in this while I was watching it.
Okay. So through this journey, again, Ian's learning magic. Barley is trying to take him on this path. They go through all of these different traps and booby traps and things, and they come out at the end and they're right back at the school. And then so now
hysterical.
Is it?
Absolutely hysterical. No, it's really funny.
Again, I'm just wanting to beat Barley up at that point, man. I'm just like,
that's not on Barley. That's the quest. That's the way it led them. It was ultimately the right place, but I liked that. I thought it was funny.
Okay. A little frustrating to me because he says to Ian, or Ian says to Barley, if we had just taken the expressway, we would have been here.
And they wouldn't have, because they were going in the
Okay.
They were going away from it still. This needed to happen for us to have our breakup of the main characters.
From here to the end, I'm done. I'm just done,
really?
Dude. I'm done. I hate all of it. I hate all of it because again, Barley goes. He thinks he's doing the right thing, but of course he releases the curse, which then turns into a rock dragon instead of we have smoke. Why couldn't it be a real dragon? I don't know, but it turns into a rock dragon with a goofy face. With a goofy face.
The goofy face.
And
when
then
it made the angry eyebrows.
And then the boys are angry at each other, and then, Ian goes to think with Dad on a leash, and then realizes from his list of all the things he wanted to do with Dad that he's done them with Barley all day. So wait, Barley was Dad? And so then he's like, okay, now it's more important that Barley get to meet Dad and not Ian.
And get his closure, because, that's 100% the point of the movie, Rob.
But after everything that happened to Ian should get to meet him. Both of them should get to meet him. That's the way it should have ended to me.
Okay, so that's a problem with the ticking clock that the writers made, and the fact that they did in both of our minds, and clearly probably a lot of other people, they get the second gem that should give them a whole other 24 hours, which we could have faded out on.
That would be a great way to end it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but you're now, you've gotten to the premise and the point of the movie, and you don't like it, and that's okay, because art is subjective. But I really liked it because there's so many people out there who've been raised by older siblings who had these influences in their life. For me, I have an older sister, I have older cousins who really helped me along the way, and that, to me, speaks volumes about the family dynamic and the structure and the whole "it takes a village." And he realizes that he got some of those moments with his dad, and he also had those moments with Barley, that Barley was the one guiding him along the way, which, if we saw that before, Barley takes on a whole new level, and you have a little bit more sympathy and empathy for Barley. I think ultimately, when we get to the end of this, we're just about there, is that this movie's poorly written. And I think that we'll talk more about it in a minute or two.
Yeah. Well, okay, so he has this epiphany, and that's great,
Mm-hmm.
and that's sweet. And then he decides Barley's going to be the one, and he's going to, like, take the bullet, which in this case is the curse, the dragon, and fight the dragon. And this is where his powers, he all of a sudden is Ray in the woods. All of a sudden, this guy who has had no training at all is just a Jedi. And he's just
He's
like,
speaking from his heart.
zooming and
He's
flipping,
speaking
all
from his
this kind of
heart's
stuff.
fire. I
Okay.
mean, to be fair, he's had significant amounts of training. They go through, they're practicing a lot of the spells. He's done a lot of hard spells, but he hasn't been able to really get that fireball spell off. He ultimately does. He's had training. He's now speaking from his heart fire. He's confident in himself and who he is and his journey.
So 20 hours of training. He's had plenty of training. Got it.
I mean, do we want to really go about the jobs in this world that are incredibly difficult that get that much training or less?
That is not in. Yeah, that is not in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I just want to see a training montage, but
I
and maybe
wanted
then
that
it's like,
too.
you're the best around.
I
I don't
wanted
know.
that. I wanted that very badly. I think that would have helped build the relationship between the two, and I think it would have made it a little more entertaining and fleshed out the story a little bit more. You're not wrong.
Yeah. I'm watching some of this footage of Mom and thinking you're not wrong about
Awesome.
about
Yeah.
the
And then the
let's
end
get
where
them
she
together.
picks up the axe, she's going out with the manticore. Yeah, no, it's
Yep.
good.
Let's nitpick again. We're there. We're doing it. Let's nitpick again. They start with this new gem and they get back already to where they were before. If he had already had this much torso, then maybe we would have gotten to his face a little sooner here, and maybe then both the boys would have been able to meet him.
No, I think that they being the writers, went for like the hero sacrifice in this instead of telling a more compelling story. I think they thought they were telling a more compelling story when they weren't.
I do dig the idea that he pulls the splinter out and turns it
That was
into a
cool.
giant staff.
Yeah, that
That
was
was
really
cool
cool.
because I
Yeah.
thought they were gonna go, it's been inside you all
It's been,
along, and now he
yeah,
can just
but no, it's better, yeah,
shoot flames out of
because
his hands or something
so
like that.
oh geez, I can't believe I'm doing this.
Oh, please tell me.
So that's how a lot of spellcasting works in Dungeons and Dragons. You have your arcane focus, and you need that to be able to cast a spell, or you need components of it. So, like sometimes there's components like the Phoenix Gem, and sometimes it's you need to cast it through your arcane focus, which is clearly the
Arcade Fire.
staff.
I love that. But see, this to
Different thing.
me. Oh, sorry. Arcade Fire is a different thing.
Just imagine the dragons.
Imagine Dragons. Got it. Okay. So this to me is so cruel. Is this him looking through the rocks and seeing glimpses of like his dad's body and things like that? Just
Unnecessarily cruel.
right. It's cruel. And that's again what,
Unnecessarily cruel.
like him looking through and going, I can't get out of this. I can't get to where they are. I can see them up there. Don't know what they're talking about. Barley's having this moment. I should be up there. I went on this quest. I tried to do this, and I get what you're saying. It's a hero's moment. He's given his sacrifice so that Barley can do, but it didn't have to happen. I feel like. Plus the fact,
No, I
to
don't
your
think it did.
point about the double gem, they should have
Yeah.
been able to do that.
So I still say that like if there was interest with the wigs, what we should do is we should rewrite and punch up scripts, because the way to avoid this, where it's not this torturous scene, because it's really hard to watch, is mom plunges the sword, everybody gets blown back, and he's kind of like in that daze. He's on the ground, he's trying to get up, he's blinking, he's opening and closing his eyes, and he very sees it, and then he like falls back down, and when he wakes up, Barley's there. It doesn't have to be he's like,
that's heart-wrenching, dude. That's heart-wrenching. He's holding on to his dad, and his dad disappears in his arms, and it's over, and Ian is watching from the sidelines from worse seats than I had for Elton John. He's out here.
There is no reason to make this scene as painful as it is. And I think that by making that painful, it actually loses some of what they're going for.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and again, at this point, they wrap it up, and he kind of redoes the speech about magic, and the manticore has reopened her tavern in something more realistic for her, but she's still doing the birthday parties and stuff like that. And
you did the best line, though, when he's in front of the class and he's giving the spiel about magic, and they go, and that's how you rebuilt the school? Yes. And that's how you destroyed the school in the first place? Also, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so heart-wrenching to me that I don't enjoy it.
There's a lot of that in this for me too, but there's still a part of it that I enjoy.
I went back and watched, and you guys can catch it on Deep in the Plus a few weeks ago. I went back with my friend Maleko, and we watched Dumbo. And Dumbo's one that when we talk about like why Rob is up not further on your list is because it's sad. I mentioned Dumbo and I mentioned Bambi and Old Yeller and these other Disney movies that are pull at the heartstrings, had an effect, a profound effect on me at some point, but I just don't enjoy subjecting myself to that again.
Baby of Mine deals like 3d6 psychological damage.
But going back to it, it wasn't as bad as I remembered it, and it's a classic Disney movie that is like part of the fabric of what is the Disney company, really the rides, the everything, and the music and all that. This I don't have to do that with this movie. All right, so before we wrap this up, tell me what else you want to talk about with this one. I mean, here's the thing. A lot of times I'll say, well, here's the effect it had on the parks. None. There was
you know what? I think it could have an effect on the parks because we're always talking about retheming Rock and Roller Coaster. Give me Guinevere. I mean, obviously, my heart is always with going to see Powerline and Eye to Eye and all that and Stand Out.
What about this Back to the Future moment here? Like, I mean, how Back to the Future is that?
It just feels...
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about these writers real quick. These writers have very few credits to their names. One of them, Keith Bunin, is writing the Aristocats live action. Is that a thing that's happening?
I think so, probably. Why
and he
not?
has very few other screenplay credits. Dan Scanlon, who is the writer-director, worked on Cars, and he worked on Mater and the Ghostlight, and he worked on Monsters University as additional crew, but really he's just written a few things, mostly with Pixar, not very talented. And Jason Headley, the other writer, Onward and Lightyear. Two of the most derided Pixar films that there is.
Yeah.
I don't think that these are particularly good writers. Mater and the Ghostlight's really good, but in general, I think that they're not doing a great job, and I'm not looking forward to the Aristocrats. I really don't like most of the live action stuff. I feel like there is a great story to be told here that has the emotion, that has the pathos, that is missed by a couple things, like I said multiple times. The casting of the two leads, it's Star-Lord and Spider-Man, and it makes it real difficult to separate that. I think the end is unbearably cruel for no reason to the characters and to the viewer. It is hurtful.
I remember seeing it in the theater and getting up and just going, nope. Like, why did it end that way? There are a lot of movies that I know have been focus grouped, and people walk out at the end and go, no, I didn't like that, and they go back and they change it. Rogue One, I think, was one of those movies. But with this one, I felt like to go back to the drawing board, because there's some stuff that when I heard about it, that D23 2017, and they talked about this magical land that they were making, that story, that painting that they did for us, I was like, I'm there. I love every bit of this. I want to be there. I didn't know what the story was at that time, but I knew that I liked the background of what they were telling me. This just is so hard. And it's almost like we were talking about, like, everyone in this has some kind of emotional baggage, or is going through some mental health issues, or there's just a lot of, strain and stress. Maybe this is how these guys, instead of going to therapy, just put their therapy on the page when they were writing this. And maybe this
So
was
I looked,
therapeutic
and
for them.
there's not a ton in their bios. So I looked and saw, I'm like, this feels incredibly autobiographical. This
Yeah.
feels like this is this person's statement on their life. I really think it's a statement on art. I think it's a statement on the company that they're working for. I think it's a statement on Pixar, that they want to take the road less traveled. They want to make riskier movies like this. And bravo, you made a risky movie, and it works at some points. It doesn't work at others. This is 100 times better. Taking a swing and missing on Onward is 100 times better than doing Cars 3 or Cars 2 or Toy Story 4.
Right. No. Okay.
100%.
Yes. All right. So the effort
Yeah.
is there. A for effort in doing that. But the end result to me is it reminds me of, like, all the pieces were there, and
yes,
like you said,
yes.
like you said that these were the easy grabs. They were the obvious choice, as Barley would have said about taking the expressway. It was too obvious. It was too obvious to put Star-Lord and Spider-Man in here.
Yeah.
Too obvious to put them in here, and yet at the same time, it reminds me of Fast and Furious Supercharged at Universal. It's the worst attraction. We've talked about this in Park Center. We've talked about in Park Center. It should have all those elements. They built this brand new huge building. Universal has, like, Fast and Furious, and you've got access to all these guys, and you should have done a roller coaster, and it should have been like, that movie's all about speed and action. There should have been speed and action, and instead it's garbage when you get inside. And I feel like that's the thing, is you had the elements, and I know Fast and Furious is, a lot of people are, but you had the elements, and it just didn't work. And it's just like you dropped the ball somewhere.
One of my favorite podcasts, The Flophouse, talks about, is it a good bad movie, a bad movie, or a movie you kind of like? For the Fast and the Furious, it comes so close to being a good bad attraction, but no, it's just really the worst attraction. This is a movie that I kind of like, that I felt like could have been an actual good movie, or as they say on that show, a good movie. It just swung and missed at parts. I think I can make this better in a few words. I think the montage that Ian has at the end, you put in the beginning. You show that growing up. You show that Barley's been there, and then they grow apart, because Ian's embarrassed by his brother. Barley has chose to cope with his dad's death by immersing himself in a fantasy world. You put that up front, and then at the end, you get, if you want to do the end where you don't get another 24 hours, fine. But, like, Ian is blasted back. He's not suffering, like, through watching this, clawing up rocks and putting us all through emotional torture for no reason. And he just kind of does that heroes blink, blink, blink. I see a little bit. I see a silhouette, and he conks out. Barley comes up, tells him Dad's proud of him. I think it makes it a better movie. I think making Barley a little more competent would have helped too. I think your opinion is probably one that's shared by a lot of viewers of this, that Barley is unlikable because it goes beyond cutesy and quirky, and it's hampers the trip. He's ultimately the antagonist, which I didn't put together until you told me. So thank you.
You're welcome. Anything for you, buddy. But again, like, the people who watch this, is it going to be people who loved Onward? If so, they're not going to be happy with what we've had to say. Or is it people who, like you said, is it a good bad movie? Is that how that works?
Yeah,
it's
good
so
bad movie.
bad.
So, like movies that are fun to watch that aren't exactly art.
It's not that. Together. Yeah. But it's not that. It's not that. It's like, you don't watch this ironically. You don't watch.
No, right.
You don't watch Onward ironically, and you don't watch it necessarily because of nostalgia. Again, it's 4 years old. So I don't know who would enjoy a review of a movie like that. But
I
I
hope
do
there's
think,
some people. If not, we
yeah,
just wasted like an hour of everyone's life, or just our
I know.
lives.
You get what I'm saying, though, right? You get what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
if we go
I
back
mean, it
and do
might be.
Hocus Pocus, some people grew up with that and it's religion for them. Other people, they look at it as a bad, good movie or whatever,
Yeah, yeah,
whichever
yeah. Like
that
it's
is.
campy.
And
This
it's
isn't
campy.
campy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's none
This
of those things. It just makes me angry.
it's not a swing and a miss. Like it's a swing and a foul tip, like repeatedly with 2 strikes, and then eventually gets blown away by the high strike. Like the high cheese comes through, you swing and you miss. I think with better hands, both at directing and writing, this is a different, more palpable movie.
Maybe, I have a thought for you. Maybe
Sure.
they take these elements and they create a live action version.
Please no.
Here's my thing about live action versions. If you can take a movie and make it better or different in a good way, I'm okay with a live action movie. If you go shot for shot like we did in The Lion King, I don't need that because we already have The Lion King. We don't need The Lion King again. But if it's something that goes deeper into the source, maybe Maleficent, something like that, I'm more okay with something like that. I do think, though, you don't necessarily go back and you find the Lion King movie that was a huge hit and try to make it again, but go back and find something like Treasure Planet or like Atlantis, something that didn't hit at the box office, that was a good idea that you can then bring back and do. And so maybe
Well,
you
do
would
you
have an
think this
opportunity with
ends
this.
up like Treasure Planet and Atlantis in 10, 20 years? People are talking about it in a way that is, reverent. I mean, there's a group of people who talk about the prequels like they're good movies, which is incredibly upsetting.
Right. I don't know. I mean, you're saying
And
could it find an audience later down the road where
yeah,
people are, yeah, maybe, but I
and you
don't I
can't,
don't know that it would because it's so freaking sad.
yeah, you can't remake this live action when Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves exists. Like
Okay.
that's, yeah, you just can't.
I'm
Like
not
there's
saying
no
I
point.
want it. I'm just asking the question. So,
I think
by the
there could be a place for this in the parks. Like I feel like a meet and greet would be fun, a fun backdrop. I don't know. I think that Disney doesn't do enough, and it leans on the characters that are almost overexposed. Like let's get some more random characters out there. Let's make some places feel alive. If we're gonna keep going with mythical, and I mean, maybe they can find a home in Animal Kingdom. Who knows?
okay. Hold on a second. So there is actually
Oh no.
there were meet and greet characters for Ian and Barley. So
Yeah, it's awesome.
um
With
and there's
Guinevere.
Guinevere, yeah, behind them. So
Would they
that's the
have
thing.
7 days to meet? Like, is how?
I don't
Uh,
know that I knew that was a cast on his arm. Interesting. I thought he was just
is that a
wearing like
cast
a.
on his arm?
It looks like it in that picture, doesn't it?
It sure does.
Yeah.
Cece has a doll of Barley around here. I don't. It's not within easy grabbing distance. Maybe I've never noticed that. Well, now we have to dig into that, but we could do that in our own time.
Yeah, exactly. So here's another shot of the two of them. Um,
Yeah,
it's not too bad.
it's
But
cute.
again,
They're
I
cute
don't.
characters.
Yeah, but again, I mean, it's the cute characters for something that I don't think is well revered. But
No, I don't think it
let's
is either.
so there was a lot of extra material on this, and that's the thing that I
Oh,
applaud
jeez.
Disney for doing when they do it. Is Disney Plus, unlike Netflix and a lot of the others, actually has a place for all of the content that they put on their DVDs along the way. There's so much of that content that exists. This is one of the
Wow.
things that I loved when DVDs were invented, is that you could not only have the movie like you could have on a VHS, but you could have an extra director's commentary track, which is on here. You could have the deleted scenes. You could have a making of. This has all of those pieces, but I don't necessarily want it here. I'm just glad it exists, but I don't necessarily want it here. So I applaud them for doing that. And again, I
Yeah.
think that's something they should do more often.
Agreed.
Um, let's talk about two things real quick. One is that coming up on Deep in the Plus, we did That Darn Cat last week with Maleko. This week we are doing Onward. Next week for St. Patrick's Day, the return of Patrick Hackett for You Lucky Dog to celebrate his special day, St. Patrick's Day.
Woo.
And then on March the 20th, we're going to do Home on the Range for its 20-year anniversary. which is one that I've wanted to do for a long time because I want a reason to go back and watch it.
You
Because
could not pay me to watch that.
And yet you watch this. And again,
like
back during the marathon, you and I gave of our time to do to do over the holiday a breakdown of the Pixar movies. I guess it was 26 at the time. I was torn apart because of Up and my opinions of where Up should be. But again, I said from the very beginning, go back and watch the show. I said from the very beginning, here's my criteria is that if it's a movie I want to watch again. And those movies that make me sad don't necessarily make me want to watch them again. But you and I ranked them, and here is where our rankings came in. For 26 and 25, we were spot on. We were the same. And then I dropped Onward at number 24. My boy Patrick dropped Onward at number 10.
Yep.
Do you still stand by that after going back and watching it?
I do not. No. So,
okay.
We're taking a deep dive into my psyche with this, and at the point that I watched it in the beginning times of the pandemic, when I needed anything to cling on to, it really spoke to me in that time, and it was more for catharsis than for entertainment purposes. And going to revisit that at this point in time, it's not a very good movie. I would drop it. I don't think I'd drop it as far as you did, but I would drop it.
But again, that's one of the reasoning behind it. When I left the theater, I was upset because, again, I feel like it was not the ending I wanted out of this. And I get that for artistic reasons or whatever, hero's journey, or to prove that classic media is dead or whatever you were talking about earlier.
I don't know, man.
I don't know why.
It spoke to me on different levels. I don't know. Maybe I was in like a heightened mindset at that point in time, but I was looking for stuff in it to see if there was art in here, but I don't know. I could just be making it up. We should try and get the director on. Although after watching the review, probably not going to want to come on here.
It's not going to happen. But I do think it's interesting. Again, this had a journey unlike any other movie.
Yeah.
For Disney or Pixar. Around the same time Mulan was supposed to come out, the live action version, it did not, because they didn't want to release it into theaters, and then they released it on the Disney Plus Premium, or whatever they called it, Premium Access, where they charge Premier Access, where they charge like $25 to watch it if you wanted to watch it, but you still watch it through Disney Plus and you don't own it. I did it. I bought it. I did because my wife loves Mulan, the original. Raya. Yeah, Raya was the same thing. So that's a different journey, but this one was, hey, it was just in the theaters 2 weeks ago, and then we've all been freaking out about COVID, and then now Disney Plus puts it out there as, hey, go watch Disney Plus. You can watch that movie that was Pixar that was just in the theaters for free. And the Pixar stuff was always free. Soul was free, but Raya cost money. Mulan cost money.
I still think those were terrible choices. I think that they could have waited a little bit more and would have seen a better bump. I think that was robbing Peter to pay Paul, and I think that was a lot of the reason why Disney Plus growth stopped.
Okay. All right. So we've talked about the movie. We've talked about the pros, the cons, our original views of it. The one last thing I would say about this is music-wise, there's not the music that I like the song. There's not.
No, there's not the song. But I thought the score and the music in the background was really good. I thought the score was really good. Okay. It doesn't have that Pixar song. Good call.
It doesn't need a song, but again, like there's some things that I've continued to say that movies like Encanto, which I think you feel like is overrated, and Frozen.
Whoa!
You don't?
No, I love Encanto. How dare you, sir?
What was the one that I feel like you thought was overrated?
Oh. Bring Lin-Manuel Miranda fans after me. Do that.
Well, okay. All right. Anyway, so then never mind about that.
I heard those things you said about Taylor Swift, Rob.
Oh, don't you even. I love, Taylor. Eras coming March 14th to Disney Plus. I think that those movies, Encanto and Moana, do well because of the music, and that people replay the music and think fondly of those movies. And the movies like Atlantis, Strange Worlds, things like that don't have music, don't stick with us as much. And so I mean, I feel like there's a tie there. Atlantis, Raya even doesn't have music to it.
Raya has
way.
2 great songs. Raya has 2 great songs. Wish has a banger of a soundtrack. I can't wait until Wish is out there, because I'm going to come and blow everyone's mind about how great Wish is and how everyone missed out on it.
So okay, yep. All right. So anyway, we talked about all this stuff. So again, clear your conscience, say what you're going to say, but I need to know, Patrick Hackett, I think I know, but would you recommend this movie?
Nah. Go off Disney Plus and watch Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. Go if you really want a Dungeons and Dragons movie. If you want an adventure with 2 brothers who can't really seem to get along, maybe Brother Bear. Go revisit that one. I'm never gonna watch this again. Probably. I liked it. It was fine. But no, I'm good.
Okay. I would say the same thing as I've been very clear on this entire time. This movie is sad. It kind of makes me a little bit angry. I feel like it's one of those that, like, when you watch a Pixar movie, you want something that's going to make you feel good. And yes, there can be drama and peril and things like that, but I feel like it's supposed to be a children's movie, and it's very heavy-handed. I wasn't looking for that. I was looking for Incredibles. I was looking for Toy Story. I was looking for Monsters, Inc. and Cars and Coco. Even Coco has some darker...
Coco's super sad, yeah.
Right, darker things, but it's not the same here because we have a happy ending to that one, basically. I mean, at least there's hope. And this one is it just is so sad to me. And so I wouldn't recommend Onward to anyone, but also at the same time, I wouldn't judge you if this movie meant a lot to you either, because it does have a story that will, as we've talked about on here, it will speak to you in some way, shape, or form, but it doesn't mean that that's what I want to turn on and watch. And like I said, it was almost to the point where I couldn't have it on in the house because it was going to be that triggering. And that's not something I look for in a Disney movie or in a Pixar movie. Save that stuff for Fox Spot Searchlight. I mean, I don't know. It just, I don't know. It seems a little bit too much for me. But tell us what you think. And again, if this is your favorite movie, that's great. I have a hard time with it, and I think I'm just like you, Patrick. I don't know that I'll ever watch this again.
Yeah, I think I'm putting that in the vault and spinning that lock shut.
Yeah. So hopefully next week when we talk about You Lucky Dog, man, I hope that one turns the tide for me. I hope that's.
I haven't seen that since I was a kid.
I've never seen it. So
really, oh man, we're gonna get Pete Kirk Cameron going on.
It's going to be so wonderful. So, again, thank you guys for joining us tonight. Don't forget to join us for Park Center on Sunday night, and it's at 9 p.m. We enjoy having you guys join us with
a whole lot of Patrick.
Should we talk a little bit about March Madness on Park Center this week, or no?
We'll see.
And again, and you can go check out last week's. Patrick wasn't on it, but it was still a good show. So, hope you guys have a great week. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.
Put it in H for halt.